हाय एंड वेलकम टू द BuildMate Podcast। आज मेरे साथ संगीता विज मैम हैं जो मेरे साथ पहले भी 2-3 एपिसोड्स में रह चुके हैं। एज यू नो, शी इज़ अ क्वालिफाइड structural engineer and she's been practicing for more than 40 years now. The prime reason that I've got her here today is to talk about the situation that has happened in Turkey and Syria, and we need to understand the presumptions that it has towards our own country and in our own region. There is a Dutch researcher by the name of Frank Huger जिन्होंने टर्की और सीरिया के अर्थक्वेक को पहले से एंटिसिपेट कर लिया था। लगभग 3-4 दिन पहले he came out with a report and he said there can be a massive tremor in the region, and it happened. He is somebody who has also predicted a massive earthquake in Afghanistan, which will protrude towards Pakistan and enter the Indian region and end up in the Indian Ocean. There are multiple reports out there on online and in different news media जहाँ पर इस बारे में बात हो रही है। संगीता मैम को 1 मिनट के लिए मैं चाहूँगा कि संगीता मैम अपने आप को खुद भी इंट्रोड्यूस करें। मैम, great to have you here. Can you please tell us about yourself?
Thank you, Rishabh. I'm happy to be here with you again. I am a structural engineer. Have been working in the field of building design for last over 40 years now. And I have 2 things to add. Even in one of the IITs in India, I don't want to name the professor because it's still unpublished research, but they have been able to come up with a device which can predict earthquakes in the radius of about 270 kilometers. So that is a positive development, I think. And once it gets established and tested, probably we can also have such devices all over India, and maybe help, it'll really help us to be able to predict and to know in advance.
Yeah, so far they're saying about 50,000 people have died, and they're saying estimated number है exact जो government websites पर है 6,444 buildings over 10 provinces in Turkey.
Yeah.
They've been completely destroyed.
The numbers which you have mentioned of people lost and buildings lost may actually be much higher, because I think they are still struggling to establish the numbers, and whatever numbers are being floated. The partly damaged buildings, if you include them, the number may actually go up. And we must also mention, our sincere condolences.
Yes, of course.
And our sympathies are with the survivors, and all possible help is being extended by our government.
Yes.
And as citizens, we are very sympathetic and very concerned that such a thing has happened.
Yeah. Why do you think that the destruction was of this level? ठीक है, 7.5 Richter scale था.
7.8.
7.8.
Yeah.
And
followed by a 7.6, which is pretty ghastly and pretty
and hundreds of aftershocks
disastrous
after that.
combination.
Yeah.
Yes. Actually, the probable reasons which are now coming out are mainly lack of compliance to the building code.
Yeah.
They had a building code, but many buildings had been made before the building code came into implementation. Yeah. And even after the code came in, very few people actually followed or implemented it in their buildings. So the lack of compliance, the reasons being cited are mainly soft stories, stiffness irregularities and geometric irregularities, and large cantilevers. And I think all the elements which are not meant to be there in a building in a high seismic zone, those elements were there. And
मैंने तो BBC के एक रिपोर्ट में पढ़ा है कि their latest building code was revised in 2018.
Yeah.
Buildings which were not compliant in 2018, they accepted amnesty fee.
Yes.
To basically make those buildings compliant.
Yeah, I didn't want to say this, but
no,
yes.
This is out there on BBC.
There.
It's out there in Al Jazeera. It's everywhere.
But point is, this kind of a bad precedent that they set up is not just in Turkey. I think if we look at our own scenario, things may not be very different.
That is what the fear is actually. And वही होता है ना मैम, we need to learn from others as well, and we need to implement here, and what good comes out of it we need to learn, what bad comes out of it we need to relearn, and we need to redo.
What are the reasons for non-compliance? Let us look at that.
Okay.
No conscious effort is being made to drive people to check their buildings. Only after High Court intervened against PIL and asked Delhi corporations to get audits done for buildings done before 2002, something was started. But that has turned into a farce.
It doesn't seem like a massive drive.
Because the corporations do not understand, they are neither serious about it, nor do they understand what to expect from a client.
Yeah.
Supposing I have a 20-storied tower, official commercial tower, what am I supposed to do? I have to get a full technical audit. If I don't have structural drawings, I may have to get some non-destructive testing done for material strength and knowing whether corrosion is there or not.
Yeah.
And then some structural engineers have to be engaged who carry out structural analysis and design, compare the existing strength available with the strength demand of the structure, and then suggest a suitable retrofit scheme. Now, the job of the corporation doesn't stop here. They have to make sure that the retrofitting scheme has been also implemented. And this is something which is already there in National Building Code. It has been there forever. In Chapter 2, there it is very clearly mentioned that the municipal authorities are empowered. They should seal the building, and only after they are sure that the suitable retrofitting scheme has been implemented, should they allow the reuse of the building. Now, this kind of a serious, conscientious drive has to be there in place. And first of all, we have to also look at what is Bureau of Indian Standard doing. I'm part of the CED 39 code committee, which looks into revisions and implementation issues of earthquake resistant design codes. But there is no clause which tells a client as to what is to be done about the non-compliant buildings. In those codes, suppose if we talk about 1893, which is our building code design, building design code, it does not give you any clear-cut recommendation there. But if we look at National Building Code Chapter 2 on administration, there is a clause which is meant to be adopted by the municipal authorities all over India. But for structural engineers, but for clients, for architects, there should be a codal provision. Every time you're revising 1893 Part 1 or Part 2 or Part 3, Part 4, there should be a catch. There should be a bottom line saying clearly that, okay, within next 3 years, the implementation of this code must happen. And the building should become code compliant.
Okay. But currently, we don't see a massive drive happening towards that.
And in addition, I think clients are also not aware.
That's the main point, actually.
That's the main reason.
Yeah. If I want to get my house checked today, I've been living in that house for 8 years now. How do I go about it?
See, basically, there are two scenarios. One, when you already have the structural analysis and design model available, which is what we do, a 3D modeling in either StatPro or ETABS or SAFE. There are three main softwares which are used by structural engineers in India. Either that is available and the construction drawings are available.
Okay.
In such a case, my job is very simple. I go through the model, modify it, run it based on the current code, change the load combinations and revise loadings if required. Supposing the use of the building has changed, let's say from residential to commercial, the loading becomes higher. Or if it has changed from let's say residential to industrial, like it happened in many Lakshmi Nagar buildings which had collapsed.
Yeah.
They had been designed as a residential complex, but later used as an industrial structure. So there the loading becomes heavier. So we check the building and we tell you exactly where the columns and beams need to be strengthened. But there is a catch here. It happens many a times that we get calls from flat owners who are living in a particular floor of a complex, bigger complex, where others are not interested in getting the audit done or retrofitting done. So our job then gets stuck in a soup, it becomes a...
Yeah, I live in a cooperative sort of a situation as well. Ground floor owners different hai.
Yeah.
First, second, third, everybody has their own ownership.
Yeah.
And if I ask them to come around and, get the structural safety done.
It's unfortunate, but in such a scenario, we're not able to help. I have personally been, I've received many distress calls. I've been to many housing societies, including government housing and even TDA housing.
Yeah.
And I have seen that there are structures which are in grave situation. They're poorly maintained, they're badly cracked, there are a lot of seepages. Reinforcement is corroded, and you can actually see that reinforcement is disappearing in many locations.
Yeah.
You remember in a court building in Dwarka, the roof fell down.
Yeah. I
Because
read
the
that.
reinforcement had completely vanished because of corrosion.
Yeah.
Now, unless the whole building, the whole structure is willing to be audited, I can't help such a flat owner.
Yeah, but that is another scenario जहाँ पर already drawings available नहीं होंगी.
हाँ, उस
तो उस
सिनेरियो
case
में हम लोग क्या करते हैं, वी नीड टू नो द मटेरियल स्ट्रेंथ. आज आपने ड्राइंग में M30 लिखा था, मगर आपका आज का कंक्रीट क्या है वो जानना ज़रूरी है. So basically we need to know core cutting helps in such a case.
Okay.
And we need to know the concrete strength.
Okay.
And we randomly pick columns and beams and slab and get the
Concrete
testing
की
done.
strength with time changes.
Actually जब बना होता है कंक्रीट तो बहुत से लोग बाद में टेस्ट नहीं
get
कराते.
it. I know what you
There's
mean.
no way of finding out what it was intended to be M30, whether it actually became M30 or not.
Or not.
And older structures, if you look at buildings done in 80s or even before that, तब concrete 1, 2, 4 ही होता था.
Right.
तो उसकी तो M15 से better होने के chances बहुत ही कम है.
Correct. Ma'am, what is the life of a structure?
Design life is 50 years.
As a standard, we can maintain that. And
Yeah.
तो फिर after how many years should a structure be checked for?
देखिए,
Safety.
National Building Code recommends that every public building more than 15 meters high should be audited every 3 to 5 years. And
Okay.
it is written in very clear terms.
Okay.
I don't know how people are not reading the code and people are not trying to implement it strictly.
मैम हर किसी का रोजी रोटी नहीं है ना वो काम
नहीं, हर
कंस्ट्रक्शन वाला
किसी की रोजी रोटी है भाई. आप देखिए ना, इसमें मैं डायरेक्टली नहीं कहना चाहती हूँ, मेरी बात समझो. अगर म्यूनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशंस इसको सीरियसली फॉलो अप करें तो उनके लिए बहुत सारा इसमें इंटरेस्ट निकल सकता है.
राइट.
एंड इट विल सेव थाउजेंड्स ऑफ लाइव्स इफ नॉट
That
मोर.
is probably the prime
उसका
reason.
रीजन है एक्चुअली 3 to 5 years. उन्होंने क्यों सोचा, वो हर साल क्यों नहीं कहा उन्होंने? हर साल तो इम्प्रैक्टिकल है. कोई आदमी, और हर साल रीजन भी नहीं है उसका कोई. हर साल में बिल्डिंग एकदम इतनी डिटीरियोरेट भी नहीं होगी. 3 to 5 years is a window which actually gives you time to reflect that whether my building is compliant with the latest revision of the code or not.
And what about
Normally,
I'm sorry. What about buildings which are less than 15 meter height?
वो आपकी श्रद्धा है.
वो अपनी चॉइस है मतलब but at least 5 years.
मगर मैं ये बता दूं कि भुज में जैसे ज़्यादातर जो डैमेजेस हुई थी, people and buildings were lost mostly in this G+1 bracket.
Oh, I thought G+1 was
अहमदाबाद में
relatively...
ज्यादा मल्टी स्टोरेज गिरे थे बिल्डिंग्स,
Okay.
वहाँ सॉफ्ट स्टोरी की वजह से कोलैप्सेस हुए.
It is a myth कि ground+1 है तो इतना रिस्क नहीं है.
It's a myth. Anything which is non-engineered and is not ductile is going to suffer a major damage. Concrete is a very brittle material. What is making it ductile is the proper design and proper detailing of the structure.
Correct. Yeah.
If we don't do that, then how can we save such a building? अभी जो जितनी टर्की की इमेजेस हैं, मतलब बहुत ही ज़्यादा स्कैरी हैं. The building is there and within seconds it's gone. It's like collapsed like a pack of cards, you know.
It's very unfortunate, like the way you look at it.
Yeah.
Materials का उसकी भी एक रिपोर्ट आई थी. Material standard में
is
कोई
not
कमी नहीं है.
bad. Is not bad.
Material standard is world class. In fact, Turkey exports a lot of building materials like PVC and a bunch of things. हमारे देश भर में UPVC windows लग रही हैं. Turkey is the major manufacturer of those UPVC sections across the globe. और उनके जो standards हैं वो बहुत high हैं. European standards पे comply करते हैं. Material standards में किसी में कोई challenge नहीं था. But the way the massive destruction has happened, buildings have fallen like a pack of cards. ऐसा लग रहा है जैसे columns exist ही नहीं करते थे.
भाई कॉलम्स थे, अब आपने फ्लैट स्लैब्स बना दी. फ्लैट स्लैब्स क्या होती हैं? जहाँ पर बीम्स नहीं है आपकी, कॉलम है और स्लैब है. अब उसमें शेयर फेलियर होता है, सडन कोलैप्स होगा उसमें. बीम्स तो है नहीं, तो एक जो पैरेलल फ्रेम है एक्सटर्नल, अगर हम देखें, इफ दिस इज वन पोर्टल, how does the earthquake shear get transferred to the next portal and the next portal and the next portal? It's through beams. So if beams are missing, slabs will be able to transfer some shear, but it's got a very limited capacity. अगर आप moment of inertia समझते हैं तो BD³/12 होता है, तो उसमें depth of the member plays a very major role. Slab cannot be a replacement of a beam, which most people in our fraternity will understand very easily, but others, including architects and clients, don't understand that.
When you say depth of the member, depth of the beam you're talking about.
अभी हमें बहुत से आर्किटेक्ट्स कहते हैं आप फ्लैट बीम लगा दो, हिडन बीम लगा दो, कि जी आप सरिया ज्यादा डाल दो स्लैब में तो वो बीम बन जाएगी. ऐसा नहीं होता. क्योंकि वो BD³/12 है. B is the width and D is to the power cube, you know. So
3,
it doesn't work that way.
Okay. Do you think India is ready for such an event now? So
I think no. I wish we are, but I sadly I feel we are not compliant. More and more, the kitty of those buildings which is non-compliant appears to be increasing every day, day by day.
How do you think there can be a directional approach towards this? क्या होता है कि अब ऐसा event हो गया global standard, global level पर, and everybody knows lakhs of people have died. अब तभी एक push मिलती है हमें, उससे पहले तो हम सो रहे होते हैं सब.
But Rishabh, I think we have very short memories as Indian public.
As human beings.
Yeah.
Globally, I think everybody has a short memory. Do you think it should be driven from the government standpoint of view?
It has to be. Actually, there has to be a watchdog. There has to be an engineering license. We don't have licenses for engineers in India, which is a very, very unfortunate thing. Anybody and everybody can get away by signing structural drawings.
Contractors भी पढ़े लिखे नहीं होते major cases में.
Contractor की ना पढ़े लिखे होना एक अलग प्रॉब्लम है, वो भी प्रॉब्लम है, पर स्ट्रक्चरल इंजीनियर का लाइसेंस ना होना एक बहुत बड़ा मेजर ड्रॉबैक है. क्योंकि आपकी ड्राइंग्स में कोई भी साइन कर दे तो संगीता विज का नाम लिख के और ऊपर अपना साइन करके काम चला लेगा.
उसमें कोई
मेरा कोई
identification नहीं है.
यूनिक आईडी या मेरा कोई यूनिक नंबर तो है ही नहीं. दूसरी बात ये कि एक ऐसा वॉचडॉग होना ज़रूरी है गवर्नमेंट लेवल पे, जहाँ जा कर के आप अपनी कंप्लेंट रजिस्टर कर सकें कि भाई मेरी बिल्डिंग विद इन 3 years ऑफ हैंडिंग ओवर इज क्रैकिंग अप एंड शोइंग मेजर डिस्ट्रेस, टेल मी व्हाट टू डू. इन फैक्ट अगर आज कोई मेजर टावर कोलैप्स होता है या उसमें स्ट्रक्चरल डैमेज होती है, उसके बाद वो ओनर्स का क्या होने वाला है, ऐसा कोई मैकेनिज्म है ही नहीं हमारे यहाँ. कोई ऐसा लॉ नहीं है जो उन लोगों को प्रोटेक्ट करे और कोई उनके लिए वो टावर रिक्रिएट करके दे बाद में.
ऐसी कोई बॉडी
Imagine there is a destruction, mass destruction has happened, the post-disaster, and there is no replacement of those buildings because there is no mechanism, there is no government body who will make sure that that happens. So there has to be a watchdog looking into all the non-compliant buildings, and I can name thousands of them. Trust me, there are flat slab buildings, there are buildings with large cantilevers, there are buildings with large stiffness and mass irregularities. In fact, there are buildings where two dissimilar towers like this are, having a bridge, which is a transfer girder, and there are 5 floors or 6 floors built above that transfer girder. And that gap is a substantially large gap between two buildings. So when these two buildings which are dissimilar in stiffness will deflect, in an earthquake they will deflect differently. The movement may not be parallel to each other. So उन ऊपर के 5 floors का 6 floors का क्या होने वाला है कोई भी common man भी समझ सकता है. So how have these buildings been allowed to come up? And more such buildings are coming up in the NCR. I don't want to name the builder, but इस तरह की ज्योमेट्रीज अप्रूव क्यों हो रही है? क्योंकि आर्किटेक्ट्स हैं या टाउन प्लानर्स हैं, उनको इस बारे में मालूम ही नहीं है कि इरेगुलर ज्योमेट्रीज नहीं बनानी है अर्थक्वेक प्रोन एरियाज में.
तो मैम जैसे अब देयर इज नो गवर्नमेंट पुश एज सच करंटली एटलीस्ट, तो डू यू थिंक इट इज अपॉन आवरसेल्व्स दैट वी नीड टू बिल्ड सेफ एंड वी नीड टू टेक प्रिकॉशनरी मेजर्स टुवर्ड्स आवर बिल्डिंग?
देखिए ऋषभ, गवर्नमेंट की तरफ से पुश होना एक अलग बात है, उसकी ज़रूरत है इसलिए ताकि जो कोड बार बार रिवाइज होते हैं टाइम टू टाइम, या टेक्नोलॉजीज रिवाइज होती हैं, या बिल्डिंग का यूज़ चेंज हो गया, लोडिंग चेंज हो गई, हाइट चेंज हो गई, किसी ने 2 फ्लोर ऐड कर लिए, उसके पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू से चेक करने के लिए गवर्नमेंट के पुश की ज़रूरत है. पर हम लोग एज ओनर्स अगर हम अपनी बिल्डिंग को सेफ नहीं बनाते हैं तो आई कांट अंडरस्टैंड वाई वुड एनीबडी नॉट वांट टू बिल्ड अ सेफ हाउस. इट्स जस्ट लैक ऑफ अवेयरनेस. लोगों को ये समझ में नहीं आता कि स्ट्रक्चरल इंजीनियरिंग डिज़ाइन की क्वालिटी अच्छी होना बहुत ज़रूरी है. खाली कंस्ट्रक्शन क्वालिटी पे फोकस करना भी ठीक नहीं है. आपका डिज़ाइन अगर गलत है, आपने हिडन बीम दे दी, जैसे मैंने आपको अभी समझाया था, हिडन बीम इज़ नॉट अ बीम. सिमिलरली लोग क्या करते हैं कि बीम को कैंटिलीवर निकाला, उसके ऊपर एक कॉलम खड़ा कर लिया, वो फ्लोटिंग कॉलम्स होते हैं और वो कॉलम नहीं कहलाने के लायक नहीं है. दे आर एक्चुअली नॉट कॉलम्स, दे आर पार्ट ऑफ अ कैंटिलीवर सिस्टम ओनली. सो these elements can kill your building and cause sudden damage or sudden collapse. And correct design based on the principles of code, guidelines given in Bureau of Indian Standard Codes must be carried out. Even if it's a 4-storied building, the normal stilt plus G plus 3 kind of construction, I think it is must that you hire a competent structural engineer. आप अपना स्ट्रक्चरल इंजीनियर खुद चुनिए. आपको कोई ज़रूरत नहीं है कि आप सारा काम इंक्लूडिंग इंजीनियरिंग आप आर्किटेक्ट्स को दे दें. आर्किटेक्ट्स आर ब्रिलियंट प्रोफेशनल्स एंड आर डियर फ्रेंड्स, बट दे हैव नो और वेरी लिटिल नॉलेज ऑफ स्ट्रक्चरल इंजीनियरिंग. दे कैन नॉट judge the quality of your structural designer. He can't actually tell you whether the structural design done by his engineer is right or not.
मुझे इस सवाल का जवाब पता है, मैं फिर भी पूछ लेता हूँ बिकॉज लोगों को नहीं पता होगा. डू यू सपोर्ट स्ट्रक्चरल मॉडिफिकेशंस और इनोवेशंस?
देखिए, I can't say that I don't support structural modifications, but they should be done with the consent of a qualified structural engineer. And they should be done in a consensus manner. आपके पास स्ट्रक्चरल डिज़ाइन अवेलेबल है, आपके पास स्ट्रक्चरल ड्राइंग्स अवेलेबल हैं, आप मेरे पास आइए, किसी भी स्ट्रक्चरल इंजीनियर अच्छे के पास जाइए आप।
कहाँ होती है स्ट्रक्चरल ड्राइंग्स आज?
नहीं, क्यों नहीं होती है?
I live in a flat.
This brings me to a very basic question.
I live in a flat which was
Why?
built 25-30 years back. It's a decent flat. It's a decent locality. The reason I have chosen to live there is because of the society and the location of it. बच्चों का स्कूल पास है, सब चीज़ें, right? People see convenience rather than all these things right now.
That's fine.
तो आज मेरे पास कोई
I'm
drawing नहीं है
just
उसकी.
saying कि ये हमारा कल्चर इंडिया में है ऐसा, जहाँ हम लोग आज की डेट में बिल्डिंग ग्लैमर के ऊपर इतना फोकस्ड हैं कि सेफ्टी हमारे ध्यान में कभी आती नहीं है. हमें पता ही नहीं होता कि स्ट्रक्चरल इंजीनियर क्या करता है. अगर हर फ्लैट ओनर अपना घर लेने से पहले डीडीए को फोर्स करे कि मुझे मेरे घर की ड्राइंग्स चाहिए, तभी मैं फ्लैट की ओनरशिप लूँगा. You can even go to court and may force them to give it to you. They cannot deny it. If you go to any good builder, ask for structural design and drawings. They will be compelled to give it to you.
So if it's
you
a
have paid for your
property, yes.
Yes.
So if it's a DDA property, maybe we can file an RTI and request them for the drawings. हो सकता है.
Why not?
एक approach
Why
करी जा
not?
सकती है.
Yes.
It will be unique.
Same goes for big builders. And we worked with the biggest of them in NCR. They not only hire one set of consultants to do their designs, they also hire a set of proof checkers to check the designs. So designs are available. Only we don't ask for them.
What advice do you give to someone who is renovating an old built-up structure?
Same as I said earlier.
Same, right?
Hire
a qualified person.
structural engineer. उसको बताइए आपकी लेटेस्ट रिवीजन ऑफ अर्थक्वेक कोड के हिसाब से बिल्डिंग को चेक करना है.
Okay.
और वो बिल्डिंग का ऑडिट करेगा, चेक करेगा, आपको बता देगा कि आप जब रेनोवेट कर ही रहे हैं तो आप ये पर्टिकुलर कॉलम में थोड़ा सरिया आप एक्स्ट्रा डालो, जैकेटिंग करा लो, या स्टील प्लेट लगवा लो, या बीम में मान लीजिए बॉटम में प्लेट लगा के काम चल सकता है.
दिल्ली के अंदर आपके हिसाब से रिलेटिवली सेफर बिल्डिंग्स किस टाइप की हैं? आप पहले ही हंस रहे हो इस सवाल पे.
It's a very difficult question because I don't want to name regions which are safe. I would rather look at regions which are not very good. For example, East Delhi is mostly, carrying very
A
bad
tough spot,
soil,
Yeah.
pure sand with very high water table. So unless tall buildings have been built using piles, they may not be very, advisable for occupancy. Then the entire Dwarka and including Dwarka Expressway buildings which are being sold at a premium.
Yeah.
And they have extensive corrosion because the groundwater is carrying very, very high level of chlorides and sulfates. So I think उसमें बहुत प्रॉब्लम है.
जहाँ करोजन होती है वहाँ कोई रेस्टोरेशन कर सकते हैं हम दोबारा लेटर ऑन?
देखिए, corrosion is a silent killer like cancer, and you will not even get to know about it often unless
you check it, of course.
Unless you take care of the cracking. हमारे यहाँ क्या है ना, अनफॉर्चुनेटली क्रैक्स दिखते हैं तो हम पेंट प्लास्टर लेके उनको छुपा देते हैं. क्रैक्स दिख रहे हैं आपको बिल्डिंग में तो उनको इन्वेस्टिगेट करना चाहिए. एटलीस्ट रेनोवेट कर रहे हैं आप तो कम से कम once a year पेंट पॉलिश से काम नहीं हो जाता आपका. दैट इज नॉट इनफ.
रेजिडेंशियल
कोरोजन का अनफॉर्चुनेटली कोई इलाज नहीं है अभी तक. एक या दो कंपनीज हैं वर्ल्ड में जो कि पूरा बाहर से वो एनोड लगे और पूरी बिल्डिंग को कैथोड बना के वो उसका ट्रीटमेंट कर सकती हैं. दे कैन सक the corrosion
part out of it.
But that is a highly expensive and very, very formidable cost है उसकी. So I don't know how many people can actually afford to do that.
Old government construction compared to old private construction?
Definitely government
construction. Now, how do you rate?
ये मैं बता दूं आपको कि जो मेजर अर्थक्वेक्स इंडिया में आज तक आए हैं, सबसे बेहतर परफॉर्मेंस अभी तक जो रहा है वो CPWD local PWD buildings का रहा है.
Very nice. Okay. So this is
Because
good
they
to know.
have always had the best brains, in structural engineering. I would say CPWD and PWD engineers, I would rate them
Okay.
the highest.
आप DDA प्रॉपर्टी खरीदोगे कभी?
Never. Never.
Redevelopment is happening, especially जो आर के पुरम Delhi areas में. A lot of housing is being brought down and redeveloped. Do you think it has to do with the life of the building, or do you think it is the requirement of more homes that the government is pushing that endeavor? क्योंकि दोनों भी हो सकती हैं. अभी हो रहा है, काफ़ी काम चल रहा है. In fact, there's a lot of expansion in terms of redevelopment.
It's a good thing they are doing, that they are trying to create newer buildings.
Yeah.
Because those buildings that they had have kind of
40-50 years maybe now.
outlived their life.
Yeah.
And also I think the low-rise framework was not helping the numbers.
And there was no parking
Yeah.
at the
Yes.
stilt and everything.
Now, I again come to compliance issue, because in one of these projects, the work was earlier with my company, and the architect there wanted flat slabs in the commercial building, even at the podium level and in the basement level,
Yeah.
which I advised against, because I told her, it is not going to work like that.
Okay.
So, since the project was awarded to the architect first and then to me, she had an upper hand, and she decided to change the consultant, thinking कि शायद संगीता को फ्लैट स्लैब डिज़ाइन नहीं करना आता, इसलिए फ्लैट स्लैब मना कर रही है. But our code had a very, very clear mandate against flat slabs, and still flat slabs have been done. The entire commercial kitty in that development is with flat slabs and columns. So इस तरह के काम अगर हम कर रहे हैं तो उसका रिजल्ट क्या होने वाला है वो पता है, सबको मालूम है.
मैम गुस्सा नहीं आता?
गुस्सा आता है, इसीलिए मैंने बोला ना कि एक वॉच डॉग होना ज़रूरी है.
बट ऐसे
इंडिया
तो
में एक वॉच डॉग होना चाहिए, एक ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जहाँ जाकर के आप इसके बारे में बात कर सकें. हमारे मीडिया में भी कोई इंटरेस्ट अभी तक ऐसा डेवलप नहीं हुआ है.
नहीं हुआ है.
They are more interested in playing Hindus versus XYZ and covering, every aspect
They're
of
showing what sells,
religion and
basically.
every aspect of politics.
Yeah.
But this is something which should now catch their fancy. They should talk about it. They should show it in the media. They should talk about it. Talk with experts. Talk with professors, people who have come back from Turkey after seeing the mass destruction and people trapped in the rubble and
It's still not clear.
children crying out.
अभी भी situation पूरी तरह recover नहीं
I
है.
know, and the hospitals fell, hospitals got damaged. इनको जाके अलग-अलग बिल्डिंग्स में नए हॉस्पिटल सेटअप करने पड़े. नेपाल में भी ऐसे ही हुआ था.
ऐसे ही हुआ था.
तो हमारा फोकस there has to be a drive covering, starting with hospitals, then your communication infrastructure, your transport infrastructure comes next, then government and buildings like parliament, buildings like, chalo parliament Touchwood is a new building. I'm sure it's a very well designed structure, but older buildings need to be looked into. Older hospitals need to be retrofitted. In fact, NDMA had come up with excellent guidelines for hospital safety in 2016. Unfortunately, it's not being followed in totality. If I look at the hospitals that have come up during pandemic, they are all violating those norms.
Okay.
वो प्रीकास्ट बना दिए, स्टील में बना दिए, जबकि वो गाइडलाइंस में क्लियरली लिखा है कि प्रीकास्ट हॉस्पिटल नहीं बनाना है आपको पीईवी का हॉस्पिटल नहीं बनाना है. स्टील का हॉस्पिटल अगर आप बना ही रहे हैं तो भी उसमें शेयर वॉल्स कंक्रीट की होनी चाहिए.
Okay.
और कितनी मिनिमम परसेंटेज 4% ऑफ फ्लोर एरिया हैज़ टू बी इन टर्म्स ऑफ कंक्रीट शेयर वॉल्स in either direction. Now those guidelines are beautiful guidelines, very clear, very focused on giving you a safe hospital. Global standards have been incorporated in the guidelines, but अगर कोई उसको पढ़ेगा ही नहीं, उसको फॉलो ही नहीं करेगा, तो क्या फ़ायदा है?
फिर वो गाइडलाइंस रह भी जाएंगी तो हम बाद में बैठ के क्रिटिसाइज कर सकते हैं बस, और तो कुछ नहीं हो
नहीं,
सकता.
ऐसा नहीं है. वी आर in the last meeting of CED 39,
Yeah.
I had suggested to Dr. C.V.R. Murthy and to the BIS representative that we must incorporate these guidelines for hospitals. और चाहें तो हम हॉस्पिटल के लिए अलग से एक नया पार्ट 1893 पार्ट 7 और पार्ट 8 कुछ बना सकते हैं.
You're also a
जिसमें-
very big fan of Delhi schools, right?
सॉरी हॉस्पिटल के बाद स्कूल्स का नंबर आता है. आप देखेंगे बड़े बड़े जो नाम हैं स्कूल्स के, द नेम्स विच सेल एंड पीपल आर प्रिपेयर्ड टू पे एनी फैंटास्टिक रिडिकुलस अमाउंट ऑफ मनी to get their child into those schools. Their buildings may not be safe,
Yeah.
may not be code compliant, and we are sending 3, 4-year, 5-year-old kids to a school which is probably not having even 15 Newton per mm square concrete strength. अभी हमने एक जूनियर स्कूल रेट्रोफिट कराया है. आप अंदाज़ा लगाइए उसकी जो कंक्रीट स्ट्रेंथ निकली थी वो 7, 8, 9 ऐसी स्ट्रेंथ थी compared to M25 which is now the minimum.
Minimum standard, yeah.
Yes. So पुराने स्कूल्स को, पुराने हॉस्पिटल्स को, पुरानी पब्लिक बिल्डिंग्स को, हॉस्पिटल्स हैं, आपकी गवर्नमेंट बिल्डिंग्स हैं, इनको सबको रेट्रोफिट करने की ज़रूरत है. और ख़ासतौर पे आपकी जो टेलीकॉम आज की डेट में आप देखिए ना, डेटा है आपका, टेलीकॉम है, ये बिल्डिंग्स have become suddenly very important.
Yeah.
We can't afford to lose any building even for few months, you know, so
The whole
It's
system
important.
collapses, yeah.
it's important. और मुझे समझ में नहीं आता कि हम लोग ऐसा क्यों नहीं कर रहे हैं. मैं जहाँ भी मौका मिलता है, मेरे मतलब बहुत से ऐसे वेबिनार्स भी हुए पेंडेमिक में, आई हैव ऑलवेज बीन फ्लैगिंग दिस इशू दैट नॉन कंप्लायंस इज़ अ वेरी सीरियस इशू. और इसके लिए क्लाइंट्स को, आर्किटेक्ट्स को, स्ट्रक्चरल इंजीनियर्स को, सबको एक एज ए टीम काम करने की ज़रूरत है.
एक last question. Can you just give out one give to the people listening in? कि अगर किसी को किसी तरीके की इस चीज़ में कोई गाइडेंस, मदद चाहिए, what can be your give towards it and how can they reach out to you?
Well, I'm Sangeeta Wij and I run a company called as SD Engineering Consultants. I'm a managing partner. Harvinder Singh Ji is my equal partner, and he's also a very experienced structural engineer. We are based at New Rajendra Nagar. If you wish to reach us, Rishabh can share my email ID.
I will.
And we are available. And in fact, there is our Association of Structural Engineers based at Kalkaji. We call it Indian Association of Structural Engineers. They have a very, very highly experienced team of structural engineers spread throughout India. So you can look up our website and you can look for a good qualified structural engineer and select. I mean, I'm not claiming by any means that I'm the only one doing a good job.
No, that's...
But yes, I can say with confidence that in all of 40 years that I've worked, I have always done full due diligence to the best of my
Yes, of course.
capability. Code compliance is something which I take very seriously.
मैम, ये 2 वर्ड्स लोगों को मेरे ख्याल से आने वाले फोर्सिबल फ्यूचर के लिए रख लेना चाहिए, एंड दे शुड कम्प्लीटली फोकस ऑन गेटिंग कोड कंप्लायंट विद देयर लर्निंग्स.
और ये भी जानना ज़रूरी है ऋषभ कि बहुत से लोग ये समझते नहीं है, मगर मैं बता दूं कि पुराने कोड और नए कोड में क्या फ़र्क है.
ओके.
पुराना कोड हम जब आज़ाद हुआ था हमारा देश, तो हम वी वर कंसिडर्ड एज अ वेरी पुअर कंट्री. तो वी वर नॉट एक्सपेक्टेड टू adopt design techniques leading to, let's say, a building, similar building in Japan or Los Angeles or New Zealand, which are equally seismic prone. So we were at a much lower level of earthquake safety. But as time has progressed and India has become a much better nation, much stronger economically, and people have the buying power, I mean, the luxury goods and luxury cars notwithstanding. So our codes are also being upgraded to give you an upgraded level of safety. Gradually, the objective is to bring my building to a level as near as the best in the world.
Yeah.
Now, that needs to have the structural engineers and architects looking at the building as safety first thing. बट वो हो नहीं रहा है हमारे यहाँ. हम लोग अभी भी ग्लैमर में ज़्यादा उलझ गए हैं. ब्यूटिफुल फसाड्स, ब्यूटिफुल विंडो सिस्टम्स, ब्यूटिफुल फ्लोरिंग, वर्ल्ड क्लास लग्जरीज इनसाइड द हाउस, बट स्ट्रक्चर भी सेफ होना चाहिए. और हम जैसे जापान में डैम्पर्स लगाते हैं या हम बेस आइसोलेशन सिस्टम लगाते हैं, वो हम यहाँ भी लगा के दे सकते हैं, पर उसके कोई टेकर्स ही नहीं है. बहुत से लोग ऐसा अफोर्ड भी कर सकते हैं, पर लैक ऑफ अवेयरनेस की वजह से वो मांगते नहीं है. ये स्ट्रक्चर में सबको सस्ता चाहिए होता है सब कुछ, और बाकी पैसे जो बच जाते हैं उसको फिनिशिंग, फ्लोरिंग, टॉयलेट्स और फसाड्स में लगा देते हैं. पर मेरे हिसाब से उल्टा होना चाहिए. आपकी बिल्डिंग शुड ऑलवेज बी सेफ्टी फर्स्ट. यू स्पेंड मोर ऑन अ गुड स्ट्रक्चर. इफ़ यू बिल्डिंग अ टावर 54 स्टोरीड, 70 स्टोरीड बनाइए आप, पर आप उसमें डैम्पर्स लगाइए. आपका स्टील भी काफ़ी कम हो जाता है. आपने यदि डैम्पर्स लगा दिए तो आपकी जो बिल्डिंग का अर्थक्वेक में डिफ्लेक्शन होने वाला था वो कम हो जाता है, तो बेंडिंग मोमेंट्स कम हो जाती हैं, स्टील की रिक्वायरमेंट कम हो जाती है. तो आप वहाँ बचा सकते हैं पैसे, मगर उसका कोई टेकर आए सामने, उसके लोग डिमांड आए सामने, तो इस तरह की बिल्डिंग्स बनने लगेंगी और उस पे लोग अपना इन्वेस्ट करेंगे टाइम. Good structural engineers will come up with, lot of options. But ऐसा, I think it should happen in the foreseeable future sometime.
Yeah, it should.
Yeah.
Evolution तो चल ही रहा है हमारी कंस्ट्रक्शन में.
I hope it does sooner than later.
ठीक है मैम, great. Thank you so much again for your valuable time.
Thank you, Rishabh. It's
आपकी
been a pleasure.
आपकी इंसाइट्स हमेशा यूनिक होती हैं और अमेजिंगली to the point and hard facts होते हैं, which is something I absolutely respect about you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening in. I will share Sangeeta Ma'am's email ID at the in the video description. I will share all the possible links where you can reach out to her and you can take her advice. We will also share a link for the Indian Society for
Indian Association of Structural Engineers.
Indian Association of Structural
and
Engineers.
And NDMA. You should also, anybody who's a stakeholder can actually download the NDMA document from their website. It's free and free downloadable. Similarly, even Bureau of Indian Standard Codes, the PDF versions are available. Architects are also advised to go through the 1893 Part 1 chapter on irregularities, Table 6 and Table 7, I think, and understand which are the do's and don'ts in a building in earthquake zone 3, 4, 5.
Great. So we will try to share all those links with you, and as many files or PDFs we can, we will make them available to you. Thank you for listening in. This is BuildMate Podcast. You can write in at buildmatepodcast@gmail.com, or you can follow and message me on Instagram at BuildMate Podcast. Thank you.